welcome back to the episode after my Australia trip. It's been about 10 days since we got back from Australia. I got hit with a nasty sinus infection, a few other things going haywire, jet lag with a toddler. It really does suck. But we're here, as the title suggests. We're installing some brackets today that we got made by SendCutSend. We got cut by SendCutSend. We made them. We designed them on the computer. We'll jump into that too. So, buckle up. Here's this episode. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, thanks for liking, thanks for commenting, and thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate it.
As most of you know, we are going to be using the rear seat well for where we are mounting the ECU, power, and negative distribution blocks, as well as a CAN hub and later down the line a PD16. Right now, I'm just measuring up the initial bracket design, figuring out the dimensions necessary to get it to fit within the seat well as intended. With each measurement, I'm crudely drawing and writing it down on a piece of paper to transfer that to a CAD file. Heading over to the trusty green, roach-infested like Racer's apartment toolbox, I wanted an M8 and M6 riv nut. The goal was to mount the rear seat well bracket with an M8 bolt and the bracket for the keypad with an M6 bolt. Now that I had all my crude measurements and pictures drawn, it was time to hop into a CAD software. I chose Onshape. It's a web-based application that is free to use for the most part. I was able to get everything looking as I expected, including where to bend the aluminum and then get the sheet metal part as a DXF file. I also drew up the mount for the keypad. I designed this mount for the keypad as two parts, as I was not 100% sure what angle I was going to need to position the keypad itself. As I mentioned at the start, I was in Australia for quite some time. It meant that after drawing everything up in CAD, I had to wait a good amount of time before ordering everything to be cut and bent from SendCutSend until closer to leaving Australia. I used the StanceWorks 15% off your first order code, and I'll put that up on the screen now. I was extremely pleased with how the parts came from SendCutSend. They were packaged well and were exactly what I designed. I was actually very worried that I had done the CAD drawings wrong, but thankfully everything fit.
So I think that's going to be the position for it. I'm going to weld along here. I'll mark it first and remove it. But basically I just wanted to make sure I had enough room to engage the handbrake disengage it, which I do with or without gloves. So I'm going to mark that now, and I'm going to weld it together. Now I know that it all mounts up, I'm going to take it back out and give it a paint. So we'll clean up the weld, grind it down a little bit, make it a little bit smoother, and then we'll paint it a little bit, just with some steel or black. Tonight, let's flick that on. Tonight we are going to put the car back up on jack stands, axle stands. We're going to raise just the rear, I think. I don't think we're going to do the front. And I'm going to get the starter wire to the bulkhead fitting done. So I'm going to set up a time lapse and we're going to get going.
Flick the robot on.
Now I've got plenty of room on this side, which is kind of where I need it. So I can get back up onto there. We can sort out the starter wire for the actual power, so we can finish off the charge harness. And then we can also splice in and change it over to a spade connector for the actual starter itself. So I do a fair amount of faffing around then, because where these are, they collide with the torsion tube if I'm putting the axle stand, the jack stand, whatever you want to call it, on that torsion tube. They're actually too close together, so I can't fit it nicely in between, which kind of sucks. So just a note for next time, space them out a little more. I'm not really sure how much more room I had, but yeah. So now we're gonna get making a wire from there. It'll go up and over into where that starter is there. So I'm going to attach, I don't know if I'm going to attach it to the starter first or if I'm going to attach it to the terminal. I think I might attach it to the bulkhead, run it over and see how close we can get. So let me get that done now. Loop this up and over into there. Come on, focus. Up and over into there. Easy. Got to get this nut off so I can position the ring terminal so that I can get a good measurement of exactly where I want to cut and how I want it to lay out. These are the small but necessary things. They kind of just make sure you lay everything out properly, you know. Okay, so and that means that I want to cut there. So we'll just mark that at a full 90, and let's say that'll do right there. All right. So now we have our mark. Let's take everything apart. That's that all hooked up. It flows down through there and connects up to the bulkhead. So that's another thing off the list. Now it's modify this ring terminal to be a spade. I believe that is for perfect. All right, so we're gonna splice into this beautiful rye wire harness and put that spade connector on. I really don't want to do this, but I kind of have to. Alright, that's switched over. It's not the prettiest, but hey, it'll do. So now the only real thing to finish up the charge harness is to connect this to here, and then basically from there to a battery, and there to a battery, and then same here. I want to do a negative so that this all powers on the R3. So I'm going to quickly make up those lines, and then we'll get to install them. So the next thing that I got to order is a CAN hub adapter. Basically, I need to be able to extend the CAN so that I can connect the haltech keypad with the extension cable, as well as ultimately a PD16 and the IC7 dash when that comes. But the next thing is I'm going to just connect to the haltech via USB. And oh, actually, I got a new shop laptop. So yeah, that's a thing. So a work colleague of mine, his dad was getting rid of this laptop. I picked it up. Shout out to Brandon, very much appreciated, and his dad. But now I basically have a shop laptop that I can connect to the R3 myself with, instead of borrowing my father-in-law's laptop. So let's see how this goes. Nexus R3 is powering on still. I didn't damage anything. We are connected in here. Shout out Animal Auto, Andrew there. So NSP is working, which is amazing. Like I said, Windows 7 and running NSP is incredible. And yeah, so I think the next thing that we really need to try and do is get oil into the engine so that we can actually crank it, or at least attempt to crank it. I also have these leftover cables from the previous battery setup, so we can actually plug any battery onto these bulkheads and test that this all works. So you can see how I've kind of laid out the wiring for the frunk, that is also the ignition and the fuel pumps, so that'll all run along there. There's a bunch of leftover wire, so I'll trim that up, and then that all connects over there. So we're getting well and truly close to actually kind of cranking this. That's exciting. Drive-by wires all connected, keypads there. We're looking real close. I think we can put the wheel back on and get this back on the ground, kind of clean up a little bit, and just at least have us back on the floor. Not going to fall off the jack stands, but yeah, really happy with the progress. I'm pretty beat. It's pretty warm. The garage door's closed, which means that we're ending the episode here. Really happy with the progress. Super keen on getting that cold side on the engine done. I got some track tough stuff to install. I got some K-Power stuff to install when that arrives. Hopefully we can get the injectors installed as well as the fuel rail, and at least get us set up ready to go with once we order the fuel pressure regulator, and also the rest of the hoses that we need to actually finish in the engine bay. So maybe that'll be the next episode. I'm not sure. I'm gonna change to the cadence to about once a month. I think that gives us enough time. Gives me enough time to actually film a bunch of stuff. And yeah, so thanks again for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I see you all. It's awesome. I appreciate everything. And we'll see you in the next episode. Have fun.